The following programming is sponsored by Mark J. Bernstein. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group. Entrepreneur, founder, author, and financial advisor Mark Bernstein helps high-performing business owners turn their visions into reality. Through his innovative work and the Forward Focus Forums, Mark connects entrepreneurs to resources that fuel their success. Founders Forum is a radio show and podcast where entrepreneurs share their journeys, revealing the lessons they've learned and the stories behind their success. Join Mark and his guests for a mix of inspiration, valuable insights, and a little fun. Now, let's dive in.
Good morning, America. How are you? We're here today in sunny Philadelphia. Beautiful day. Unfortunately, not beautiful all over the country as hurricanes are approaching and all that kind of thing. But, you know, we are survivors. And I have in the studio not Ange today. She's out. But I have Craig Lurch with me of EXP Realty Luxury Real Estate. And Craig has been on the show before, and he's hosted with me before, and he's considering doing his own podcast. So we're kind of doing a trial run here today. So welcome, Craig.
Thank you.
And Deb is with us, and I'll introduce Deb formally in a minute. But good morning, Deb.
Good morning.
And we are, because of Deb and because I've been inspired by her story, we always have a topic of the day. And our topic today is the power of creativity. And she got me thinking, I don't know what she's going to say about this, but I know it's what she does. But for me, I can tell you, I'm an artist by background. I was actually a visual artist as a kid, became a musician. And, my music is the start and the end of our show. It's from our album, the band Frets, Bridges, and Skins, and it's called Like Herding Cats is the name of the album. I don't say it very often, but there's a plug. It's on all your favorite streaming services. So and I think about the connection between that and, I was a music major in college, then I went to law school. Now I'm a financial planner. There's a lot of creativity in all those things that I've done, especially in financial planning. I find a lot of it because you're trying to solve problems. And I always found that creativity drives kind of everything that I do. And I think about that often. We had to pivot during the pandemic. It took creativeness for me, creativity to do all that. And by the way, Deb and I were counting, we're both left-handed. And when I was bored in music school and law school, because there were boring times, I would count how many left-handed people there were in each of the classes. And both in music school and law school, it was more than double the average. Because it's about 15% of people that are left-handed. It was over 30%. It was about a third of the people. So what I deduced from that was that left-handed people are creative and they are smart and
we're problem solvers because we have to figure out how to make it through the world in a right-handed world.
I think you're, and we talked about some of those ways we have and haven't done
yes.
that. So that's true. So that's how it's impacted me. Craig, how about you? And then we'll let Deb have the final word because she's the master of it.
First of all, I'm not left-handed. But I know everybody that is left-handed is extremely creative.
You have a left-handed personality, though. I
could be left-handed a lot. I could be a lot of things to a lot of people. But this is so exciting because I theoretically do not have a creative, pretty side in me at all. I know how to create and talk to people and sell and change lives and all that stuff.
That's a form of creativity.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, and I'm looking at the things you're going to talk about, they're gorgeous. They're touching all the senses, and you're going to touch on them. But to have that creative side, my mom was an artist. My sister could draw. My daughter Casey is phenomenal in drawing. But to see this prettiness come together and to see a vision, it's phenomenal. And thank you for letting me be here with you because this is a side I don't know. I know how to do it in business. I just don't know how to put it down. So this is an exciting time. This is an exciting day.
Well, that's great. I love your enthusiasm as always. And Deb, your word on the power of creativity.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here on the show today.
Thank you for coming from Lancaster to Philadelphia.
It was a joy and an easy drive.
Nice. Just
a little bit of traffic. So I believe that creativity has the power to change the world and that creatives should be at every table. And, we're often overlooked in the business sector. And we really do. We bring new ideas. We bring ways to change the status quo. And in the case of Fig, which is the magazine that we created, it can even change a city.
And look, you are, before you said anything about it or before I knew we were going to talk about this, I knew that about you because I know your background and I know you have a creative background, but you're a very successful entrepreneur. You're changing the world, and we'll talk about how you're
trying. Yes.
We'll talk about how you're doing that. So let me introduce to you Deborah Brandt, owner of Fig Industries. She has a passion for creative communication and an unwavering determination to help small businesses, which she considers the heartbeat of any community. Amen. I'm with you on that. A certified B Corporation. We need to address that a little bit too, because not everyone knows what a B Corporation is. Fig Industries is a design and marketing studio specializing in branding and communications. We'll also talk about the fact that Deborah also founded Fig Magazine, a champion for small businesses and impactful organizations. And it started in Lancaster, but she currently has franchised it in 3 locations. And she's poised to help many more cities grow and thrive, which I find inspiring and amazing that she's doing this. So welcome officially, Deb.
Thank you.
So let's start out with, as we always do, your story. Tell us about your background and how you came to be doing what you're doing today.
Well, that might take more than 20 minutes.
I understand.
My background, I am from Lancaster County originally and went to Kutztown University and for a degree in communication design, and then left and went to New York City and said I was never coming back. So I was in New York a long time ago in the 90s, and that's where I started and really created my career. I ended up being at a design studio and then going into luxury goods and consumer goods, doing package design for cosmetics and fragrance.
So that was industrial design in the sense that you were doing?
It was graphic design. So graphic design and marketing for Ralph Lauren, for Parfums Givenchy, which is part of Louis Vuitton. And then from there, I moved back to my hometown of Mannheim, or Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Mannheim was where I was originally from. So it was a bit of a culture shock to go back.
The auto auction.
Yes, which is why, yes.
So,
yes.
But so, and why did you go home?
Well, there were a few reasons. We had been there for about 7 years. And I ended up with a health scare at age 28, which was a shock. And it was a reality.
Married? Were you married at that point?
I was married. I married my high school sweetheart, and he followed me to the New York area. Loved every second of it, but was ready to, for the next step, and moved back to our hometown. So we had 2 choices, either moving to Chicago or moving back to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and we chose Lancaster.
Wisely so. It may become the next Chicago the way it's going.
That's what we're hoping for.
That's what we're working on. So that's great. So you moved back there, and then what happened?
Yes. Moving back, found ourselves in the middle of this great little city, but there wasn't a lot happening, and decided that we wanted to find a way to shine a light on the small businesses that were in the city of Lancaster. At that point, it was 2005. So I had been there for 5 years. And I love people, and I love getting involved in what's happening around me. So I really dove in to the community by that point and saw that there was a need to showcase the small business community in Lancaster County or in Lancaster City. So started this thing called Fig. And it was a direct mail piece going outside the city to bring people into the city and support the small businesses.
Can I stop you for 1 second? Because I read about the history, why Fig? Just explain that for a second, because it's a great concept.
We wanted a name that my partner and I, she was a writer and I was a designer. At the time, we owned the business together. And we wanted a name that would take on a life of its own. And so the fig fruit is a historical fruit, and the seeds in the fig mean unity and prosperity. And it's also, it's a sweet fruit, but it's not pretty. And all cities are not pretty, but they're very special places. And we wanted to find a way to show the world.
I love that meaning, and it is one of my favorite foods in the world, figs. So at
the time, it wasn't a popular fruit. Now it is.
And by the way, in brands, I see a lot of like Fig and Olive as a restaurant, and all that. Use it a lot lately. But
so remember,
but you started it.
This was almost 20 years ago.
Understand.
So maybe we were a small part of making it more popular.
That's what I'm thinking. Exactly. So okay. So anyway, I interrupted you. So you started Fig.
Yes.
And what happened then?
So it was quite a journey. For the first 5 years, it was a labor of love. People didn't know what we were doing, but we were these 2 cheerleaders for our city. 5 years.
You and your husband?
No, this was me and my business partner.
Your business partner.
Yes,
gotcha.
two women on a mission was what that was. And
your husband does work in the business with you now,
he
right?
is our CFO, yes, but he is part-time with the business.
Gotcha.
So over the years, when you start a small business, you also need someone that has a secure job with benefits.
Right.
So
Gotcha.
we've taken turns over the years.
Good financial planning.
Now we have that with our business, and he's part of that with us.
Got it.
So it took a while for people to understand what we were doing. About 5 years into it, my business partner left. I became a sole proprietor, and that's when I expanded and moved Fig into other locations.
Gotcha. Fig the magazine.
The magazine, yes.
Yes. And how is that going today?
So it is going very well. After almost 20 years, we are incredibly involved in the city of Lancaster. And if you've been there, it has been quite a revitalization, mostly in the past 10 years. The magazine itself, we've franchised. So we are in several locations across the country. And our design and marketing studio, which we haven't talked too much about, called Fig Industries, is also thriving. And we work for small to mid-sized businesses as well as some regional larger organizations.
Deb, we always talk about on the show that being an entrepreneur is not necessarily the smoothest of rides. So you've had some challenges along the way. What kind of challenges do you think you've had, and what kind of strengths did you develop to overcome those?
Wow, where to start? So as a creative business owner and the leader of a design and marketing studio, there's creativity all day, but you don't really learn how to be a leader and how to lead other people. So it's taken me quite some time, and I've grown over the years to really understand and love that the people within our organization, that is our product. That's who we are. And we're only as good, essentially, as our next edition of Fig or our next creative project. So I value the people who are with our company so much. We have about 12 people. We have some part-time people as well. So it's taken me some time. I will say that I feel like my word is resilience. Because our company not only made it through all of those challenges, but also through, the economic downturn in 2009 and 10, and then a pandemic.
Right.
Yes.
Well, resilience is a big word these days. You heard it a lot all over the world. You look at, I don't bring politics in this, but you have a war in Ukraine as an example, and the resilience of the Ukrainian people, which has been remarkable. But certainly as an entrepreneur, it's a word that you need to have handy at all times, right?
Yes.
So where do you see this going from here? And I know let's talk about your 3-year vision, because I know that's one of the things that you had brought up.
Yes, very important. Our 3-year vision is to be able to take this Fig platform and this buy local, love local small business platform and put it in the hands of creatives in great cities around the country so that they can lead their communities and make change in their communities. Because I do believe that creativity, as I mentioned before, can change everything.
And that's Fig the magazine. With that, this is a great time to take a quick commercial break, but I want to come back and talk to you about how the magazine does that, and the impact of what you're doing in your businesses would be great. So we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back on Founders Forum.
Fig Industries is a strategic marketing agency specializing in brand development and design. As a woman-owned certified B Corporation, they're on a mission to elevate ideas, change perceptions, and transform businesses. With a spirit of collaboration and a mission to help revitalize their hometown of Lancaster, PA, in 2005, they founded Fig, an enthusiast guide to local dining, shopping, arts, and community. Almost 20 years later, Fig is still celebrating Lancaster City and can also be found in the Lehigh Valley and Columbia, South Carolina. If you are an entrepreneur who wants to start Fig in your area, find out more at figmagazine.com.
We're back on Founders Forum with our guest today, Deb Brandt, and we have Craig Lurch in the studio. Welcome back. Deb, so I know what your magazine does, and I know how it has an impact, but describe to our audience how you're making an impact in cities through FIG the magazine.
Thank you. So FIG is an enthusiast guide to shopping, dining, arts, and community. But it's so much more than that. It really is a way to bring together all the great things in your community and tell that story. So it's storytelling. All of the content within each issue of FIG we create. So our design and marketing studio, we actually take all the photos and we write all the stories. And it's a way for us to let people get to know their community. Because I believe that if you give people a reason to love where they live, they will transform their community.
That's amazing. So you've started, so when you go to a new city, and I think, is Charleston one of the ones you're in?
We've been in Columbia, South Carolina.
Columbia,
There's a studio in Columbia that runs their edition of FIG, and they do a tremendous job. And they've actually been doing it for 12 years.
So when you go in and nobody's heard of this concept before, I mean, there are city magazines, but this is, try to describe it to the listeners, but this is unlike any city magazine you've ever seen. Mm-hmm. It's really elegant, high class, printed on great paper, and it highlights businesses primarily and what they're doing in the communities, and it talks about community building to a certain extent.
Yes.
So when you start brand new, how does that happen in a new city?
It does take some time to get traction. In addition to the print magazine, there are social media channels as well as a website and weekly e-news. So it's about how do you connect that, how do you create that buzz and that energy and get people excited about it? One thing other than creativity that I'm always preaching would be collaboration. So we never come into a new city without city leadership, the mayor, people knowing that what our mission is and being part of that mission. So it really is a way to create a movement.
So now let's jump back to Lancaster, the city of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where you've been doing it for how many years? 19. So now I imagine it's like a landmark almost of the city. Everyone kind of knows about it.
I would hope so.
And how do people get that? Do you mail it to people?
Yes, it is we direct mail it, and it is based on a mailing list, but also you can sign up to receive it at your home. We also are targeting new people moving into the area. So every month we send FIG to new homeowners so that they can buy local right from the very start.
Nice. So I assume this is very expensive to produce, I would imagine, because it's a really nice piece.
I would say yes.
And to fund that, and you're not a nonprofit, so in order to make a profit, I assume this is funded by advertising from the businesses that are in it.
You're a financial guy, aren't you?
Yes, I am. so right.
Yes,
right.
It is advertiser driven. I will say that we also have some amazing community partners and collaborators that want and need the city of Lancaster to thrive, and they partner with us. And that would be the city of Lancaster, the High Foundation, Willow Valley. So large entities that really believe in the city and want to, help make sure that it's thriving.
Some of those are nonprofits, which I assume get grants to help promote the city, and they use some of that money to help fund it as well.
Yep.
I think the concept is amazing, and the fact that it's successful. Anything I've seen things like this start up before, and they last a couple years and they fizzle out. But 19 years means it's working. And
19 years is a long time, and I do believe in the long game. This is not an immediate, trying to help transform a city is not an overnight quest. It takes time, and it takes collaboration, and it takes a lot of resilience. Back to resilience.
And I know, I haven't asked you this, but I know that there's a connection between the impact you're making with FIG the magazine and what you help businesses do in terms of making an impact with FIG Industries. Talk about that a little bit, if you don't mind.
So with FIG Industries, we work with companies and organizations who are either on a mission or who are invested in their communities. We do have consumer good companies that have a mission behind them. We work with nonprofits and foundations so that we can communicate their message and tell their story of how they're investing in their clients and their community. So it all ties together nicely.
I understand. And Fig Industries is a B corporation. And I don't know that all of our listeners know what a B corporation is. So why don't you describe that and talk about why you elected to become a B?
Yes, we are a B corporation for about the past 5 years. And it has always been part of our company to be mission driven, and becoming certified, which was something we've gone through twice, was a great way to measure our environmental impact, our cultural impact, the impact on our community. And the B Corp movement, I believe, started here in Philadelphia.
Is that right? That I wasn't aware of. I only know of it because a couple of years ago I was on I'm a member of Entrepreneurs Organization, and they had a conference on B that I attended virtually, and I learned a lot about B corporations.
Yes.
Do you when it comes to creativity, how do you inspire? I'm sure you inspire a culture of creativity within your company, because that's what you're all about. How do you do that, and how is that going?
Wow. So we, every day have the opportunity to think of things in a different way. And that's how I believe that creatives can change the world, because we see things a little bit differently than everybody else. Perspective is one of our core values. So we're always looking to understand the perspective of our clients, to understand the perspective of people who may be reading Fig, and to think about how we can reach them differently and how we can impact communities and brands and lives.
And so in Fig Industries, back to the branding company, I'm jumping back and forth, but what kind of things do you do as a company to impact the community?
We're extremely involved. We are on boards and we work with organizations. Because of the magazine, we're out there in the community at events and things like that on a pretty well weekly basis.
Right.
So we do give back a lot. We have a social mission program through Fig, where we work with a nonprofit and support them all year long with promotion in the magazine. We also, to stay creative, we go on field trips. We get involved in some really fun things that are happening.
Nice. And
we try to make sure that we keep that creativity flowing.
And B corporations treat their employees differently as well. You want to talk about that a little bit and what kind of things you do?
We're measured on the things that we're measured on are our benefits, our employee benefits. We make sure that we pay at least 70% of all of the benefits. So there's lots of details that are important to be able to be certified. We also have some salary requirements about the gap between the highest paid and the lowest paid, and we meet those as well. So it's all of those things that kind of come together.
I gotcha. What else would you have us know about Fig that we haven't talked about?
Wow. So our design and marketing team is just simply amazing. And we're located in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We're not a Philly team or a New York team, but we have the quality of some of the bigger cities. We have a heart for community. And through the magazine and the work that we do, we are on the ground. So we're very, very, very connected. So I would say that the things that make us special: creativity, collaboration, and connection. I didn't intend for them all to be C's, but they are.
That's pretty good. Do you, I was trying to make some jokes about the B corporation, but I'll stop with that. But are you, your clients, I assume, are all over the place. They're not just local, correct?
That is true.
Can you talk about any of your larger clients and what the kind of companies that you represent?
So we work with a lot of, as I said, nonprofits and foundations. We work with a natural investing company called Natural Investments. Actually, they're all over the country, but we work with someone in Chicago. We work with senior living, as well as some educational
Willow Valley
institutions.
being an example of that.
Yeah, Willow Valley, Garden Spot Village, Messiah Lifeways. And then we also work in home improvement. So for some companies who are doing some expansion and building.
Very interesting. I know you're a reader and a lifelong learner, like I know Craig is, and I am.
As you have to be.
You have to be. Well, not everyone is, though. You can't take that for granted. What book are you currently reading?
So I have a stack beside my bed of about 5 or 6.
I'm like that, too. Do you read multiple books at once?
I didn't used to, but now I do, because some days I want to learn things and other days I just want something mindless.
Right,
so this one is a learning book that I'll mention.
Good.
And it's called Town Inc. It's by Andrew Davis. And I am actually putting together a presentation, and it's been an amazing book because it talks about the transformation of cities through companies who operate there and who live there, and how your city is known for what you produce or what you make, and how each city should be known for something. So it ties in very nicely with what we do.
And the presentation is the one we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that? We just have a couple minutes left.
So because I've been doing this for 20 years, which is a long time, I have a lot of history to pull upon. And as I said, I believe that if you give people a reason to love where they live, they will transform their communities. So it does tie in the history of FIG, but it talks about telling the stories of the businesses and organizations who are in a city and really creating that brand, because a city is an organic, living, breathing brand, and it's always changing. So through something like FIG, I'm not saying it has to be FIG, but through something like FIG, you can tell that story 4 times a year. And you can connect people and connect them to the places and the organizations where they can shop, they can give, they can get involved, because people want to get involved in their communities. And something like this will give them a chance to do that.
By the way, when you stay in a hotel in a city such as Lancaster, they usually have these local magazines that tell you where to shop and all that are, I think, pretty cheesy. Have you gotten FIG into the hotels when
yes.
people are coming there? That's
the
great.
Majority of our distribution is local through the mail, but 20% of our distribution is tourism. So we are in all the major hotels as well.
So I have to think people come and see this and they're like blown away, because I've never seen anything like this in a hotel.
Just this past weekend, 2 people reached out, one from Indianapolis and one from Florida. They happened to be in a hotel in Lancaster, and they want to know what's going on with FIG and how they can get it in their city. One
quick question. I think I know the answer, but how do you see your legacy?
That is such a big question for 1 minute of time. I see my legacy as really being an advocate for one big idea that can change everything, and for creativity and for collaboration and for encouraging creative entrepreneurs to step up and say they can lead in their cities.
Deborah Brandt, thank you so much for being here today. Craig Lurch, thanks for being here again.
Thank you.
Smiling throughout the show.
Fantastic stuff, Deborah. Fantastic. And you got to see this magazine.
And thank you to our listeners for being with us today on Founders Forum. And please look for us online on your favorite podcasting channel. And we'll see you again next week.
We hope you enjoyed your time with Founders Forum and that you found value to take with you throughout your day. Join us again next week for another episode of Founders Forum on WXKB 1039 HD2.